Welcome back everybody to another video, a Man of Faith video. And I am excited about this video, y'all. I am actually excited that you guys are joining me back for another edition of Man of Faith and staying tuned every time I drop a video like this, because Man of Faith, y'all, is really important to me because it's directed to men, and it's directed to trying to get, my men back on the right track and trying to get my men, all over the world, whoever's watching this, back to God and letting the chips fall where they fall. But as long as we are doing what we can to devote our lives to God, I think, to me, that's a job well done. And to me, that's where I find great peace and great joy in knowing that I did all that I can to bring men back to God. So if you're now tuning in for the first time, this is a video series that I've created called Man of Faith. And it's directed specifically to men, like I said before, and helping men understand that we are nothing without God. Helping men understand that we need to grow our faith through Jesus Christ, to be able to lean on Him for all understanding and how to kind of navigate this life that we are living. And most importantly, just having men understand that what good are we if we don't surrender to the creator, the spirit or the person or the almighty one that created us. The reason why I created this series of videos is because when I look around, I haven't been able to find any kind of men nowadays that have any substance, or any kind of men nowadays who are really devoting their lives to the kingdom of heaven. And if you've been watching for some time now, you understand that's my mission. My mission is the kingdom of heaven. Do what we can here on earth as it is in heaven. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, if I wasn't doing anything else, I would want to do this, which is speaking to people, all walks of people, and having them understand who our creator is, which is, the almighty God up in heaven. So I'm very appreciative of this platform. I don't take this platform for granted. And, I mark every single word that I'm saying. So sometimes when you guys see me pause a lot or say, or take a second to get my thought, it's because I really want the message to be precise in what I'm saying. And I really want the message to be directed to someone who can take away a word and take away something from what I'm saying, and not just it be open dialogue without any real substance. So I take my time in what I'm saying, specifically because this platform is a serious platform, and it's something that I kind of, dedicating my time and the rest of my life to kind of push the agenda, because I believe that if men are the leaders of the world, right? We were created first. We are the first creation. God looked to men to kind of get really a lot of the things, His agenda and what He wanted done. And so for me, it's important to have men understand that, and like I said in my previous videos, how great we are and how important we are in the scheme of this entire world, and the scheme of how everything was created. And so I'm always going to give you kind of a synopsis on what I talked about in the past. And so the first ever video, Man of Faith video, was my am I faithful, or are we faithful? And that has been really received well by everyone. It talked about whether or not, can we be faithful living in the world that we're living in now? And I made it very clear that it's hard and it takes time, but I do believe that men can be faithful. It's just we have to be in the right mindset, and we have to pull from God to get the strength and the wisdom to be able to do that. The second video, which I'm very excited about, which was the last video, Determination, it was the #1 watch video on this platform. And still to this day, it's the #1 watch video on this platform. And I'm very excited about that because it lets me know that you guys are liking the content. It lets me know that you guys are open to hearing what I have to say. And that makes me very, very happy. And so I hope to obviously make this one another good video for you guys. And this video this week, I'm focusing on giving you some examples of who are faithful men of faith. And so we can't talk about men of faith I can't talk about men of faith without giving you examples of the type of men that we should be setting our sights on, and the type of men that we should be kind of gearing our life not so much towards, but like who we should be looking at and kind of saying, okay, well, that's the example, that's the type of man that I want to become. And so when I think of the type of who were the men of faith, obviously I go through the Bible, and I'm a Bible teaching or preacher where I stick to the facts of what I know in the Bible. And, that's not to say that there's not men out here in the world that are faithful. We have so many different pastors and spiritual leaders and just great men that are out there. So I don't want to take that away from any of the men who are out there, because there are men that we can look up to in terms of fathers and elders and stuff like that. But for me, I'm sticking specifically to the Bible. I'm sticking specifically to the men of the past, right? And so that's the tagline of this series is teachings for men of the past, present, and also helping the men of the future. And so men of the past that we can kind of have clear-cut examples of great faith. I'm going to start off with the first guy that comes to my mind, which is Daniel. The story of Daniel, and you guys can read that in the Bible, is a really magnificent story because it shows you how much and how faithful Daniel was to God and how obedient he was to God. So the story starts off with Daniel and 3 of his friends were in a land with a king who was a very prideful king. He was someone who all of his success, he thought that it was on his back. He thought that, it was his hand that made him so successful. And, so what the king was doing was he was calling all of the wise men, and he was calling all of the magicians and the sorcerers and all of these people that were men, because he wanted to elevate them in his land, and he wanted to have the best of the best on his team, in his council. And so initially what had happened was, I guess he was kind of trying to put them all through a test. And so one of the king's right-hand man was saying to Daniel, well, listen, all of these guys are from all over the land. Some are big, some are giant, some are, tall, some are small. And everyone is kind of training to become the best of the best. And so for you, Daniel, you need to eat a certain way. You need to act a certain way. You need to do things a certain way because all of the other guys are doing this, and you want to be the best. And Daniel said to him, no. I'm not going to eat a certain way. I'm not going to act a certain way. There's a level of there's a level of a character that I want to be, that I want to represent, and I'm not going to go away from that. I'm not going to stray away from that. So he said, listen, I am going to eat vegetables and water for 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, if I am not as strong as everyone else, then I'll do what you want me to do. I'll eat what you want me to eat. I'll say the things you want me to say. I'll act the way that you want me to act. And so after 2 weeks passed, it turned out that Daniel was stronger than every other man. And no one could understand why. How is this man only eating vegetables and drinking water, but yet you're stronger than majority of the men that's here? And so the king's right-hand man said, okay, you know what? Clearly he knows what he's doing. Let him continue doing what he was doing. But what Daniel's recipe was he was praying. He was following and he was being obedient to God. He was doing what God was asking him to do. He was following God's footsteps for his life. He was building the character and faith that he needed to have in order to be in the place that God had for him. And so after the time, it came down to the king basically choosing Daniel and his 3 friends. And one of the reasons why he chose Daniel and his 3 friends is because the king had a dream. And he reached out to all of the men that was in the land, and no one could figure out what this dream was, what it meant. And so Daniel said to the king, well, I can tell you what the dream meant, but it's not going to come from me. It's going to come from God. This is not my understanding. This is God's understanding. And I'm going to reach out to my God, and I am going to ask for a definition of what this dream means to you or for you. And so he prayed about, getting the revelation that he needed to get. And God gave him the revelation. And he went to the king and told him, listen, you are a mighty king in this land. You're going to continue to be mighty. But what God wants you to understand is that God is putting in place anyone in the land that he wants to put in. All of your doing is not off of your hand and your work. This is the doing of God. So humble yourself and, continue to seek God, continue to treat people well, continue to do good things, and you will stay in the land, and you will be you would be the best or the biggest king. And I'm paraphrasing this, y'all. This is not, word for word, but I'm giving you in my interpretation of what the story was and how it read. And yeah, so he told the king, humble yourself and you will be the best king in the entire land. But if you don't humble yourself, what's going to happen is that you're now going to be chased out of the land, and you're going to be like a wild animal, eating from the grass, eating from, with the other animals. You are going to, as quick as you were the biggest king in the land, is as quick as you're going to be the least king and the least man in this land. So humble yourself, do good to people, and continue to seek God. This king was not having it. He was not having it. He was still boastful. He ended up creating this big statue. And I believe the king's name was Nebuchadnezzar. He created this big statue in the land of himself, y'all, of himself. And he wanted everyone to bow down to the statue. He wanted everyone at the sound of the trumpet, bow down and worship me. And which is, to be honest with you, I don't understand why any man would do that. And I'm gonna take a pause right there in the story so that men could understand humbleness and pride will defeat any man. And if a man is not humble, if he's too prideful, if he thinks that he cannot lose anything, trust and believe you will lose it all. So as men, we got to be humble. We have to understand that as quick as we get something, we can lose it. And so we have to acknowledge where our help comes from. We have to acknowledge where our strength comes from. We have to acknowledge who gave it to us, which is the Heavenly Father, our Creator. So we don't do anything on our own. The same breath that we have in our bodies did not come from us. This life did not come from us. We did not create this world. So at some point in time, you can't be so boastful and be on top of everybody thinking that you're the best and you're better than this person, you're better than that person, because in hindsight, you're not. We're all equal. We're all the same. And you shouldn't use that as a clutch to do evil to someone or to mistreat anyone in any type of way. Respect who you are, respect your abilities, and respect your gifts and talents and use them for good. And so this king wanted everyone to bow down to him. He wanted everyone to, at the sound of the trumpet, get on their knees and worship. And the Daniel and his two other friends refused to do that. They were Jewish men who still believed in God, who knew who their God was, who had faith in God, and knew that they were not going to bow down before any other king other than God. God is the ultimate king. And so the people in the land were saying, well, listen, why is it that they're not bowing down when the trumpet sounds? So they told the king called for Daniel and his friends, and they said, listen, you must have forgotten who I am. You must have forgotten this big statue. You must have forgotten what I've done for you. You must have forgotten the fact that I've elevated you higher than any other man in this country. So yeah, I'm going to give you one more chance. And when the trumpet sound, you're going to bow down. And they refused to. He refused to. And so what ended up happening was they put him in the king got so upset and was like, listen, if you're not going to bow down to me, then I'm going to put you in a fiery furnace. You and your friends are going to burn, 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 burn. And so he directed his soldiers to light the furnace as hot as it can possibly get, y'all. He wanted this fire hot. And so it was so hot that the same people who lit the fire died, right? Died. And isn't that crazy? The same people who are going against God and going and doing evil, even if you are not the person who directed the person to do it and you're just a part of it, God is coming after you too. So you also, as men, once again, you also got to watch out what you're doing, where you're going, who you're with, because you could be easily influenced to do the wrong thing. And even if you weren't the person given the instruction or given the direction to go do whatever wrongdoing that you're doing, you can still be involved in it. And obviously that's common sense. If you're going to go rob a bank and you're the driver of the vehicle, you're not the one in the bank robbing the bank, but you're a driver in the vehicle, you're going down too. And so that's exactly what happened with these soldiers. They lit the fire. It was so hot that they burned immediately upon lighting it. And they threw Daniel and his friends into the furnace. And when they threw him into the furnace, the king got up and he looked down into the furnace and he saw the three boys that was in the furnace that was not touched by the flame, that was not burning up. And it appeared that there was a fourth person in the furnace and in the fire with them, protecting them. And so when the king saw that, he said, wow, clearly the God that they serve is far greater than any God in this land, for that God to be able to protect them from the fire and from them burning up. Get them out of that furnace. And when he got them up out of that furnace, he made a declaration that everyone in the land should serve Daniel's God from that point. And so it was such a big ordeal, because it was like the king had to see the power of God that Daniel served. And that's what made him turn away and say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to hold these guys accountable, because their God is definitely a living God. Their God is definitely the creator of this world, who's able to create obviously a space for them where they don't even, they're not even touched by the flames, by this fire. And so pushing the story along, you think that would change the king's motive and character. It didn't. Even him seeing the hand of God still in that present, still in that day, he still was so boastful. He still was a wicked king, that the dream came true. And all of a sudden the king ran out of the land. His mind was changed and he became a man that didn't know what he was doing anymore. He was chased out into the field. He was, eating grass. He was eating, all of the food that the animals would eat. And God changed his mind. God gave him a mind that it had no understanding. He knew nothing. He was like a crazy man. All he knew was he was out in the wilderness for years. The man was out in the wilderness for years. No one knew, no one heard of him, no one went after him. He was a nobody. And so the dream came to pass because God explained to him through his dream, listen, you have the ability to be the best king in this land and in this country, but just humble yourself and do good, and everything will be added unto you. And he still disobeyed. Not only did he still disobey that, but he saw firsthand the God of David, the God of Daniel, how he came and rescued these three boys, and yet he still turned away. How often does God show his hand to us and we still turn away from the good that we're supposed to be doing? We still turn away from God. We still turn away from giving God the glory. We need to stop that. As men, we need to stop that. We can't keep getting burned. We can't keep doing wrong before we finally say, okay, well, now is the time to start seeking God. Now is the time to start turning back to God. How long are we going to wait? How long are you going to go through the wilderness? How long are you going to continue to do evil and wickedness amongst people before you finally realize that the best way to go in this world and to go in this life and to be in this life is to be walking with God, walking with your creator that knows everything, that sees everything, that gives you everything. And so the story doesn't just end there, y'all. It continues to go. Daniel continues to be living in the land, and another king comes. Another king comes into play. And this other king is close to Daniel, and Daniel is known in the land, big for basically being able to reveal dreams. And so this other king, same thing. He comes in, he's boastful, he's prideful, he's not humble, and God gave another dream to the man, to this new king. And the king was calling everyone to say, okay, well, I need someone to interpret this dream. No one could interpret the dream. And so they said, well, there's this Jewish guy in the land who's known for being able to tell dreams. His God has done it before for the last king. Why don't we call him? Why don't we call him? And so they called him to interpret this dream. And the same thing, Daniel said, listen, it's not me who's interpreting this dream. This is God. This is what God is saying to you. And so Daniel interpreted the dream. It wasn't the exact same dream, but it was a particular, along the same lines of just being humble and just being obedient and just understanding, that you ought to be good and that you have an opportunity to be the best, but just do the right things. And this king, decided that I guess the other people in the country were jealous of Daniel, and I guess his abilities, and I guess the fact that he was well loved and well liked. And people were saying, we want to set him up. We want to set him up. We want to take him out of here. So what ended up happening was the people in the land went to the king and said, hey, why don't you put out a decree? Why don't you put out a law that anyone who prays to any other god other than you need to get rid of them, or you need to punish them. And so the king was very distraught about it because he didn't want to do it, because he knew, the magnitude of the situation, and he had liked Daniel. He had a really good relationship with Daniel, and he had, he was not against God at all. He was just a very prideful, boastful kind of guy. And so every day Daniel would pray. Every day, nonstop, around the clock, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times a day, Daniel was praying. And so I guess not that I guess, it's exactly what happened. The people were able to convince the king to put out this decree. So I guess and I keep saying I guess, and it shouldn't be I guess. This is exactly what happened. So what happened was, to please the people, he came out with this decree that no one should be praying and no one should be worshiping any other God. And so once he put that decree in, the guys were like, yeah, we can get David. I keep saying David, excuse me. We can get Daniel. We can get Daniel now because we know like clockwork, he is going to be praying. And so I'm going to pause right there once again. Goes back to prayer. Big on prayer. Big on prayer. Big on prayer. Big on prayer. I am big on prayer. You don't have to be at a point where you're praying 4 or 5 times a day, but there's a level of growth and there's a level of understanding with Daniel that he had to pray in order to receive the things that he wanted to receive. He had to pray to receive the strength. He had to pray to receive wisdom. He had to pray to receive guidance. He understood that having a relationship with God is the most important thing in living in this world. And so he prayed often. You don't just have to pray, y'all, just because you're going through something. You can pray in good times. You can pray in bad times. You can pray at all times. It's just a conversation with God. We take things so seriously and we take things so, I don't know the word for it, but it's just like we don't have to always come when we have an issue. When we have like our parents, do you only go to your parents when you have an issue? No, having a good relationship with someone is you go to them for everything. A best friend, you call them for anything that you're going through, you call them. If you're having a good time, a bad time, you just want to see what's going on. If you just want to hang out, you speak to a friend just like that. So it's the same type of relationship that we have to have with God when we pray. Is we come to him and tell him all things, everything. And what's crazy is the fact that he already knows that. He already sees it. There's nothing that you're going to say to God that he hasn't already seen and hasn't already known. So it's getting past this I guess fear or awkwardness of praying. But once you understand that, and you can probably reach out to anyone who has a great prayer life, they're going to tell you that so many things starts to unlock in their lives when you pray. And so I encourage men all the time, pray as much as you can for whoever you want to pray for whatever you want to say. Nothing you can possibly say will be new to God because he's seen it, he heard it. You could be your thoughts in your head, y'all. And I can go back to different scriptures in the Bible. Your thoughts in your head, God has already heard it. I could be thinking something, you could be thinking something right now, and it's already heard from God. So there's nothing to hide. There's nothing under the sun that's hidden from God. So don't make that mistake and think that, oh, you're hiding skeletons in your closets. No. Pray, ask for forgiveness, get that skeletons, get those things out of your system. Because at the end of the day, God is just waiting for you to just release it. Release it, let it go, move on, and do better. You understand what I'm saying? And so to kind of get to the end of what I'm saying with the story, y'all, and is they schemed to get this law passed. The law's passed. They know Daniel's going to be praying. They go at the time Daniel's praying. He's in fact praying. Nothing is going to stop Daniel from praying. He's praying. They call the king. They say, look, he's praying. What are you going to do? So the king was trying to do everything that he could so that he didn't have to punish Daniel. But at the same token, you passed this law, you did what you did, now you're going to have to obviously do something about it. And so he decided that he was going to throw Daniel into the lion's den. He was going to throw Daniel into this lion's den where there was lions, and the lions were supposedly supposed to rip him to shreds, right? Wrong. So they throw him into the lion's den. The king is worried the entire night of what's happening. First thing in the morning, the king goes to the den, opens up the tomb, yells out, Daniel, you there? You there? Daniel says, yes, I'm here. My God, who I have called out to, who has delivered me from the hands of these lions, who have shut the mouth of these lions and made sure that I am safe and I am unharmed and I am untouched. And the king was so happy he called Daniel and out of the lion's den. And the same people who were conjuring up this law, he threw them into the den. And before they could even step foot into the den, the lions came and just grabbed them up and devoured them. And so once again, this is another example about a man of faith that was so faithful to doing what God had asked him to do, and not just doing what God had asked him to do, but being having a relationship with God, and having a love, and growing his faith to understand that through everything, through all trials, through all situations, I'm going to lean on God and God alone. And so, y'all, this video is talking about giving you an example of who we can look at to give us an example on how we should live this world. And Daniel, y'all, in this video is a clear example, a clear man of faith that we can look upon, that we can say, we can imitate these things to know that if we do, we will not only live a protected life, a prosperous life, a successful life, a joyful, peaceful, all of that. Because Daniel was so successful, everyone in the land knew him, but people were also jealous of him because of the level of success that he had. But his success, unlike the other kings before him, he wasn't boastful, he wasn't proudful. He knew where his help came from, and he knew that it had nothing to do with him but from God. And so as I close this video out, y'all, when I talk about who are men of faith, Daniel is a man that you can trust, you can count on. Go read his story. It's the book of Daniel. If I didn't explain it properly, or if I left some things out, put it in the comments. Whatever, thoughts that you have, put it in the comments, y'all. I'm grateful for that you guys tuned in to another video of Man of Faith. Once again, this video is calling out all men. All men, it's time to wake up. It's time to start doing the right thing. It is time to get back on track. It is time to start growing our faith and our relationship with God. Because as men, we are, and I said this before, we are leaders in this world. And God gives us a lot of direction to do his will and to do what he would want us to do for him. And so you got to understand that we don't longer live for ourselves. Christ came, he fulfilled the law. So we no longer live for ourselves. We live for God. And so we got to continue each and every day. We got to fight. We got to turn off our own desires and turn on the desires that God wants for us. And the desires that God wants for us is to have a better relationship with him, to love others. And he gives us everything that we need. He gives us everything that we need. A lot of people don't like religion like that because they feel restricted. For me, I don't feel that way. And the reason why I don't feel that way is because there's no greater feeling than peace, joy, and happiness. And you can't get that from a lot of things. Those feelings is only temporary, and it only fades. What happens when you lose something? What happens when something is taken from you? What happens when it fades away? And so my hope is built on nothing but trust in God, being obedient to God. And like I keep continuing to say, it's not easy. This is not an easy road to walk on. But like I said, I am going to continue to do these videos to continue to encourage each and every man out there to continue to do what's right, do what's good, do what is necessary for us to continue to grow our faith and our relationship with God. Once again, y'all, tune into another video. There's more on the way. Click on the subscribe button if you have not already subscribed to this channel. This channel is going to come real heavy at times because this is really important things to share. But I don't want to leave this world without bringing more people with me to the kingdom of heaven, because that's ultimately where I'm trying to go. And so a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I'm going to make it. The people who you feel like are going to make it may not make it. The people who you feel like are not going to make it will make it. And I want you guys to be one of them. I want us men to be one of them. So turn away from the things that you're doing. Continue to seek God. Continue to pray. Continue to do what's right. Continue to do good. Love God, love others, and the rest is history. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. This was I hope this video outdo the determination video, getting my words tied up. But like I said, there's so much more to come, and I'm super grateful for everyone, y'all. Love y'all. Peace.